My name is Irina Gostin and currently working as an associated professor at Alexandru Ioan Cuza University of Iași. My specialization is in plant science, plant cytology and histology, microscopy, light and electron microscopy, and bioindicators for biodiversity conservation. Today, we will talk about the impact of organic farming on the environment. In the first part of this presentation, we will try to answer to some apparently simple questions. Is organic farming completely environmentally friendly? Is the earth able to feed this entire population organically? Without a doubt, in many ways, organic farming has a positive impact on the environment. First, it involves a reduction of pesticides uses. The most important benefit of organic farming on the environment is the reduction of the amount of pesticides. But what is a pest? A pest is a plant or an animal detrimental to humans or humans' concerns, such as agriculture or livestock production. Among them, we list vertebrate pests. Examples: rodents, birds, reptiles, and some mammals. Invertebrate pests. Examples: insects, spiders, ticks, and slugs. Weeds. Any plant growing out of his place. Diseases. Fungi, bacteria, viruses, and other microorganisms. So, the main group of pesticides are categorized into the following 5 groups: insecticides, killing insects; herbicides, killing plants; fungicides, killing fungus; rodenticides, killing rodents like mice and rats; and bactericides, killing bacteria. Over time, pesticides have been associated with human diseases. In the human body, pesticides can enter in different ways. Either they are ingested with food or water, or they are inhaled if they persist in the air, or they can even enter by diffusion through the skin. No matter how protected a person is, she is inevitably exposed to a dose of pesticides, larger or smaller, during her lifetime. What diseases can be caused by pesticides? Long-term pesticides exposure have been linked to the development of Parkinson's disease, asthma, depression and anxiety, attention deficit and hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, and cancer, including leukemia and non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. If high doses of pesticides are accidentally ingested, some serious illness or even death can occur. At the same time, pesticides affect animals in similar ways, either they are domestic, companion, or wild animals. If high doses of pesticides are accidentally ingested, serious illness or even death can occur. The most dangerous pesticides have been removed from use, as their negative effects have been proven. The best known being the case of DDT. Dichlorodiphenyl trichloroethan, it's commonly known as DDT. It was first synthesized in 1874 by the Austrian chemist Ottmar Zeidler, but Zeidler failed to recognize DDT value as an insecticide. Paul Hermann Müller received the Nobel Prize for his role in developing the DDT as insecticides and the use of the DDT in the control of vector disease such as malaria and yellow fever. The effectiveness of DDT in killing mosquitoes, lice, fleas, and sandflies that carrying malaria, typhus, plague, and some other tropical disease saved millions of lives. In the 1970s and 1980s, agricultural use of DDT was banned in the most developed countries. DDT is very persistent in the environment. It adheres to the soil particles and can enter in surface waters. In the atmosphere, it can travel over large distances, absorbed by the dust particles. Because of that, it has also been found in Arctic and Antarctic areas. It continues to be present in the lakes of an eastern Canadian province almost 15 years about the ban was imposed and could affect microorganisms, which are the base for the food chain. The main problem was that it is particularly persistent, accumulating in increased concentration in organisms from the food chain. The phenomenon is called biomagnification. In the picture, we can see an increase in the amount of DDT from 1 in the seawater to 10 million in fish-eating birds, which are at the top of the food chain. The amount of DDT increases rapidly from one link in the food chain to another. DDT is toxic to humans and animals and acts as endocrine disruptor. Moreover, here is an evidence for mutagenicity and carcinogenicity. The soils resulting from organic farming are much cleaner than those that support traditional agriculture. Pesticides, which accumulated from year to year in the soil, are practically non-existent in the case of organic agriculture. But even in these soils, traces of pesticides can be found because there is no place in the nature that is completely free of these contaminants. But the quantities are very small, below the limit at which they can become dangerous. The same benefit has the waters, the surface and ground water networks located near the areas used for organic agriculture. They are almost completely free of pesticides that inevitably drain from the soil used for traditional agriculture. The effects of eutrophication and acidification of the waters due to the pesticides that accidentally reach them are very well known. For organic agriculture, which does not accept the use of conventional pesticides in the production process, there is the option of biopesticides. Biopesticides are represented by substances from natural sources, plants, animals, bacterial products, or even some minerals. Their use has increased in recent times parallel with the significant expansion of organic farming. Biopesticides are usually less toxic than conventional pesticides. They generally affect only the target pest and closely related organisms, in contrast to broad-spectrum conventional pesticides that may affect organisms as different as birds, insects, and mammals. Biopesticides often are effective in very small quantities and decompose quickly, resulting in lower exposure and avoiding the pollution problems caused by conventional pesticides. Biofertilizers are the substances that contain living microorganisms, which colonize the rhizosphere. Beneficial microbes can enhance the plant growth by increasing their tolerance to adverse soil and environmental conditions, or by using the resources more efficiently. Another benefit of organic farming is increasing of the biodiversity. Conventional agriculture has among these effects the dramatic decrease of the natural biodiversity in cultivated areas, but also in the adjacent areas. The main reason for the decline of biodiversity in agricultural ecosystems is the profound change in natural habitat for species living in these areas. This cannot be avoided by organic farming, which also involves monocultures. But local biodiversity is also reduced due to the use of chemicals in traditional agriculture. This inconvenience can be overcome by organic agricultures, which does not allow the use of this category of substances, or use them in minimal quantities only in emergencies. Organic farm landscapes offer many benefits. On average, they are 15% more abundant with wildlife, hosting up to 34% more species on and around of the farm. This includes almost 15% more pollinator species and 75% more plant species. Diversity on farms play a crucial role in pollination and sustaining the food systems. Organic farming and pesticide limitation primarily maintain increasing biodiversity of soil, fauna, and microflora. Soil is alive. 1 square meter of rich soil can harbor as many as 1 billion organisms. Organic agriculture has the effect of consolidating a more fertile soil with a greater diversity of animal organisms and microorganisms in it, which is an net advantage for plant cultivation. United Nations Environment Program in 2001 states, soil organisms contribute a wide range of essential services to sustainable function of all ecosystems by acting as the primary driving agents of nutrient cycling, regulating the dynamics of soil organic matter, soil carbon sequestration and greenhouse gas emissions, modifying soil physical structures and water regimes, enhancing the amount and efficiency of nutrient acquisition by the vegetation, and enhancing the plant health. These services are not only essential to the function of natural ecosystems, but constitute an important resource for the sustainable management of agricultural systems. The waters are cleaner because they are not longer poisoned by pesticides. Organic farms leach 14 to 64 less nitrogen, sustaining ecosystems and public health. Their flora and fauna remain healthier and more diverse. But how can we prevent water contamination? 1. To proper management of crop cultivation on agricultural land. Cultivated varieties should be chosen carefully, especially local ones with increased resistance to disease and pests, which reduce the amount of pesticides used. Crop rotation keeps pests off balance, especially those that prefer a particular crop with its associated cultural practices. Two, conservation buffers. They are areas near the watercourses designed to intercept and trap chemicals before they reach the surface water. Three, better management of pesticides use, from storage to distribution, selection and application. Pesticides must be carefully selected and administered in a timely manner in the minimum amount that is effective, of course, in the case of conventional agriculture. Proper storage and handling of pesticides to prevent accidental contamination is also important. In order to maintain an increased biodiversity, in the areas with organic agriculture, it is necessary that the land not be occupied to a large extent by cultivated areas. The portions of land at the edge of the crops, the area interspread with unworked natural meadows, the small package of forest represents important refuges for the species of insects, birds, and small mammals. Also, wild flora can be preserved only in these areas. In areas with predominantly organic agriculture, species diversity increases by 30%. Birds, predatory insects, such as carabids, soil fauna, and some plant species. In the image, you can see the number of studies that show organic farming having a positive green bar, a negative red bar, and non-effect, the number in the white cycle, on the biodiversity of various animal and plants group in comparison with non-organic farm management. This is a summary of 1905 scientific publication according to the Research Institute of Organic Agriculture. Butterfly species are even more advantaged by organic farming. It is estimated that their abundance can increase up to 60% near organic farms compared to areas containing traditional farms. Increasing biodiversity in agroecosystem is also beneficial for farmers. An ecosystem with a greater biodiversity is more adaptable and can respond more effectively to the stressful situation. More fertile soils with less erosion, increased population of pollinators also have obvious benefit for agriculture. Preservation of pollinators. Pollinators are essential for the realization of biological cycles in agricultural crops. In the last half-century, pollination worldwide have suffered a drastic decline, mainly due to the anthropization of more and more ecosystems. Of the crops, about 35% of species, representing 800–900 of plant species, are pollinated by insects. Wild pollinators are disadvantaged by the modern agricultural systems, which involve cultivating a single species on large areas of land. Therefore, the uncultivated spaces between agricultural lots, in which species with different flowers can appear, are very important to maintaining the biodiversity of the pollinators. Also, wild pollinators are more sensitive to chemicals used in agriculture than honeybees, and may even disappear completely from some agroecosystems. On the other hand, the monoculture plants all bloom at once, giving pollinator an increased amount of food for a short period of time. But after their fruiting, pollinators are left without available resources. Pollinators benefit from organic farming in two ways. Primarily because it does not use pesticides, so the degree of damage of the insects by the chemicals is very low. Certain insecticides in the neonicotinoids group are very harmful for bees. In conventional agriculture, the pesticide treatment should never be done on plant species with entomophilous pollination during their flowering. Secondly, organic agriculture involves the cultivation of plant species on small areas of land, areas that alternate with uncultivated portions, at least at the edge of the fields, and areas cultivated with other crops. Pollinators are thus provided with a much greater variety of plant species from which they can collect nectar, species on which they can lay eggs for reproduction in butterfly or make their nest. Over the years, the bee populations has experienced a large decrease. 42% of honeybee colonies in the US died in 2015. Pesticides and global warming are widely responsible for this loss. Neonicotinoids are one of the main and most harmful pesticides farmers are using on their crops. 1 in every 3 bites of food we eat depends on bees. Bees cross-pollinated crops and flowers to help them grow and reproduce, which includes apples, oranges, lemons, limes, broccoli, onions, blueberries, cherries and cranberries, cucumbers, cantaloupes, carrots, avocados, and almonds. Did you know that one of the most appreciated and loved cultivated plants is in danger of extinction due to the disappearance of pollinators? It's about the cocoa trees, Theobroma cacao, that provide the raw material for chocolate. The word Theobroma literally means food of the gods. This tree depends on the pollination of some flies from the genus Forcipomia. Artificial pollination is often used to supplement the work of the pollinators because the demand for cocoa on the world market is constantly growing in the last half century. Another benefit of organic farming is the pollution reduction. Pollution of the planet is a major problem in our society. Among the anthropic activities that lead to air, water, and the soil pollution, agriculture also plays an important role, although industry and transport have the first places. The main pollutants in agriculture are nitrogen compounds resulting from fertilizing the soil with synthetic chemicals and organic pesticides. Nitrogen, for example, is a necessary element for living organisms, but most forms of nitrogen are not accessible to animals and plants. In conventional agriculture, large amounts of nitrogen are used as fertilizers. Conventional agriculture is an important source of nitrous oxide, a very dangerous greenhouse gas about 300 times stronger than CO2, but much less widespread than this. It can destroy the ozone layer, which can lead to the formation of acid rain, and in contact with water, pollutes the water. Organic farming has a major advantage that it does not use the chemically synthesized fertilizers. In these systems, organic fertilizers are used, which bring the intake of nitrogen from compost or manure, or nitrogen fixed by bacteria of the genus Rhizobium from the nodules of the roots of plants of the Fabaceae family. Organic farming has definite benefits in reducing water and soil pollution. The negative effects of pollution do not only concern the natural environment, but also negatively affect the products of agriculture, conventional and organic. Air pollution harms crop plants in the same way that it affects wild plants. Pollutants also affect farm-raised animals, altering their health and reducing their fertility. In the picture, we can see the symptoms of leaf injuries in plants caused by fluoride atmospheric pollution. The negative impact of organic farming on the environment. Although it is generally accepted that organic farming has a lower impact on the environment than conventional agriculture, to have a complete picture of the situation, indirect effects must also be taken into account. Despite the fact that organic farming has a lower impact per unit area, the impact per unit of the resulting product is greater than in case of the conventional agriculture. One of the problems is the increase of the surfaces included in the agricultural circuit, especially by deforestation. Organic farming does not only come with environmental benefits. As in any situation, there is a negative influence here too. First of all, it is well known that the production per hectare is considerably lower in the case of organic crops compared with the traditional ones. So, to produce the same amount of food, a larger area must be used. As the agricultural areas on the planet are limited, obtaining the new ones is done mainly by deforestation and secondarily, and with high costs, by drying the swamps, bringing back to the agricultural circuit of the eroded lands, desalinization of some soils, etc. Virsenius in 2018 make a suggestive graphs that show that the cultivated area is almost doubles to obtain a ton of organic product compared to a ton of the same product obtained conventionally. In the case of organic animal products, the impact is even greater than in the case of plants. Because about a third of the planet's land area is currently occupied by agricultural land, increasing their share will inevitably lead to a dramatic decline in biodiversity by depriving plant and animal species of the condition in their natural habitats. Deforestation to obtain agricultural land is a major threat to the biodiversity. According to the FAO, in 2016, in just 5 years, from 2010 to 2015, 6 million of hectares of tropical forest have disappeared to make way for agriculture. Although the developing countries that practice massive deforestation for the expansion of cultivated areas, organic agriculture is much less widespread than in the developed countries, the visibly higher need for land in organic agriculture has remained a problem. But without practicing a certificate organic farming, developing countries have fairly ecological farming, mainly due to low access to pesticides and synthetic fertilizers. Higher greenhouse gas emission. The main negative effect of greenhouse gas emission is global warming and the greenhouse effect. Agriculture contributes about a quarter of CO2, which is the main greenhouse gas, emission to the environment. The main types of GHG are carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxides, chlorofluorocarbons, the freons, and hydrofluorocarbons. Because it requires larger areas than conventional agriculture to obtain the same unit of agricultural product, organic farming does not have an advantage in terms of CO2 footprints. But unlike the conventional one, organic agriculture could counterbalance the increase of CO2 emissions by increasing carbon storage. This is achieved especially by rotation of crops that characterize organic agriculture, as well as by increasing the accumulation of organic matter in the soil due to the use of natural fertilizer for several years. A study conducted in Sweden by Brisenius in 2018 shows that CO2 emissions are much higher when 1 kilo of organic product is produced compared to 1 kilo from the same product obtaining by conventional means. The increase is significant. It's 15% for peas and 17% for wheat. A recent study published in Nature Communication by Smith in 2019 showed that although the GHG emissions are lower in the case of organic farming, the use of a larger area of land to obtain a unit of the product effectively cancels this benefit. In conclusion, it is necessary to reach a balance between organic and conventional production. Organic farming alone will not be able to provide the full food needs of a growing planetary population, which is estimated to reach near 10 billions by 2050. But the benefit of organic farming for the environment must be maximized. The intercalation of organically cultivated areas among those conventionally cultivated, in compliance with the requirements of ensuring the buffer zones, can ensure the maintenance of the biodiversity of plant and animal species, especially the pollinating insects. Maintaining the pollinator population is also essential for the normal development of the biological cycle of conventionally growing plants. Also, a possibility to reduce the negative effects of conventional agriculture on the environment would be for it to apply some methods and solutions from organic agriculture. Even the introduction in organic agriculture of some methods from traditional agriculture, of course respecting the condition for the certification of organic product, but which will allow a significant increase in productivity, could be accepted.